Okay. So, we spent a lot of time on phone. We'll try to get through some of these others. But, I really think a lot of that was really critical because it is a phone overall. Al, remind me on that later. So, because I think that's going to come up on something else. So we pretty much got the phone down.
And the recording's on?
The recording's on. Thank you for reminding me. So I'm not going to go through everything on the phone because I have 900 apps on my phone. But I'm going to touch on just a few of these. I think it was really important we delve down into the phone because that's the really, really important thing. Yeah, this little. Now you got to remember though, I have a lot of apps on my phone, so it gets heavier the more I have in it. Right? So don't overload your data. And it swells after a while. Actually, speaking of swelling, there are, and somebody brought up earlier, somebody asked about a cable. The new ones have lightning, the old ones have 30-pin cables. It's okay to get aftermarket 30-pin cables, the older, wider ones like me, the ones that are shaped like this. The new ones that are lightning are really thin and they can go in either way, but this is a lightning cable right here. And yours is probably charged enough to use. So the lightning cable is very versatile. It goes two ways. Now, remember, I'm the cheap person. I'm frugal Ken. Oh, is there a Dorothy here that had their computer downstairs being worked on? Okay, wasn't here. Only buy certified lightning cables. It doesn't have to be from Apple, but it has to have a little logo that says made for iPhone or MFI, made for iPhone cables. Because worst case scenario, and it's not likely to happen, the other cables can damage your phone. But what it is, there's a little computer chip inside the lightning cables that's proprietary for Apple. And the reason being is this same cable or connector might be a blood glucose monitor. There's a new one out that does your heart rhythm so a doctor can see remotely. Very soon it'll sense your skin here and some different things. So this little connector is smaller than the other one, and it only has so many connections on it. It's essentially got 8 pins plus a 9th is the outside, but the computer chip allows it to analyze whatever it is. But that chip's expensive, and yes, these cables are expensive, but you are investing in future Apple products because this one was around for, I believe it was since the introduction of the iPad. Well, just after the introduction of the original iPod, they kept this for many years. The new connector is much better. And yes, I went kicking and screaming, and I had to get all new cables and adapters and stuff, but just make sure you get a good. And they make monoprice.com is where I get cables for everything. All one word, Monoprice. If you need HDMI cables, if you need everything else, you need wall mounts for your TVs, you can't beat them on price, and they'll ship it overnight to you from there. I was supposed to tell you that Bob's doing the Photoshop Elements class down there, and he's giving away steak sandwiches. And Richard brought donuts up here for everyone. And then Bob takes. Oh wait, there's none left. I figured Richard was going to leave breadcrumbs back to his class.
This was popular. The real class.
Bob, it's the first class they come to. They couldn't make it all the way down to yours. So anyway, the monoprice.com is a great place to get cables, wall mounts for TVs, etc. Not just iPhone, Apple stuff, but anything else you would need. But really, it's somebody asked earlier about this, and I think it's important. I had some cables that I bought, and they worked in previous versions of the OS, and then they didn't. And it's not Apple real. It feels like it's Apple really trying to make you buy their cables. They're not. They're letting you buy other people's cables, but they want to certify it because there's certain things it does. And Apple wants your experience to be good. So if you got a cable that doesn't do everything it's supposed to, you blame Apple, and it's their, it's them making your experience bad when it's really the cable. Go ahead, Judy.
I was late, so I don't know if this is question and answer.
It's not.
Well,
Is it about cables? Go right ahead.
Well, it's about attachment. I heard that there's an attachment for the iPhone that makes it easier for you to see what you're taking a picture of.
I hold it closer to my face.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't. Actually, I'm sorry.
I can't see it in the sun.
Well, I can. Oh, so you see it in the sun? Oh yeah, there's some great ones. There's these visors. There's a visor with a built-in iPhone under here that we saw at the thing, and I could just see somebody. But no, it's just a cover over it. But I mean, you're always going to have trouble in really bright light, so you're just going to have to get some sort of hood or something like that. I don't know. There might be something. No, not likely. There was another question here. Very good question. So, you have an iPad, I assume? Okay. So, I was talking about just the cable, not the charger. Your iPhone and the original iPad minis came with this little charger like this, and many people don't know, but you pull it out of this, and you can hook this to a computer or any other little USB charger, okay? It's got little prongs. And by the way, if you go internationally, they make pop-on ones here. You don't need a transformer. You basically just need to turn this into the other one, because these are set. These all do European just fine as long as you get the other prongs. You don't have to have that fancy one that changes the current and rubs your tummy and pats your head and everything. So, this is one that comes with an iPad, this charger, and it has twice the power of this charger. And it will charge your iPhone twice as quick without any problems. This, if you plug your iPad into this, it'll say, not connected, but an iPad draws more power, so it'll do one of two things. It'll either charge your battery when it's asleep, or it'll run but not charge your battery. So it doesn't have enough power to do both, to both charge your battery and use it, which is fine. It'll sustain its life. But if you have to travel and take one adapter and you have an iPad one, take the iPad one and it's just fine. And then they do make other ones, aftermarket ones. Aftermarket on the charger is fine, and they make some of them with 2 outlets on them. But the problem is some of them are weak like this. You want to make sure it's strong enough. 2.1 amps is what the iPad uses. But it's no problem using this on an iPhone, and I do it all the time. And it does make it charge a little quicker. Yes, it will slightly decrease the life of the battery, but it's such an insignificant amount. Okay, great question.
But that charger can only be used with the newer cables.
No, because it's USB.
Okay.
So the common point is the USB part that can plug into your computer, can plug into that. They even make wall outlets now that have USB. I just yesterday got one of the little, my battery in my car's going, and I was afraid I wasn't going to make it to Costco to get it replaced today. So I got one of those little, the plug-in chargers that you plug in your wall, and it's got its own separate battery. It even has a little USB port, so if you're out somewhere, you could use the battery from the charger. So USB is USB, and it's 5 volts for those that need to know. All right. So probably the next most important thing, well, all right, I ask it every time, and it's getting old. What's the best camera in the world? The one you have with you, exactly. And what do I always have with me? And believe me, it's always with me. This morning I'm in the shower. It's not in my shower, but I have a little speaker in my bathroom that I'm listening to a podcast. No, not my restroom, my bathroom. Okay, it's the whole bathroom. So I have a Bluetooth thing on the wall, so I'm listening to a podcast this morning, and they just turned my Bluetooth on so it's loud enough when I'm in the shower I can hear it. So they even I have this joke shower speaker. I didn't bring it. It's a shower speaker that actually has a microphone too, so I could take calls how's that? I guess, is that any better? We've all talked to somebody on the phone, and there's a really bad echo, and you know exactly where they are when you're talking to them, right? So there's water running in the background. Is that better or worse than the echo you get when you're in a really small bathroom? It's the old Steinfeld. It's been flagged, right? When the book got flagged. So the camera. The newer the iPhone, the better the camera. And the iPhone's camera is always a step or two better than the iPad's camera. That's because this iPhone, if you go out and buy this outright, it's $650. If you go buy an iPad mini, you can get it, well, it's on sale for $199. A lot of that money is in the camera and the cell signal and stuff, but the iPad would have to cost a lot more to have as good a camera as that version of the iPhone does. And the iPhone also has a flash on the camera. And they both have front and back cameras. The iPod Touches have front and back cameras, but their cameras are more equivalent to what the iPad is. Just for instance, the current iPod Touch and the current iPad have a camera that's equivalent to the iPhone 4S's camera. So we've already gone to the 5 and the 5S, and this is an incredible camera. Very, very incredible camera. So if I go to my camera by hitting the button on the upper right, the gray camera button, you'll notice I have some things across the top. My flash is set to auto. If I tap on flash, I can be on or off. I actually should have mine on off. Now, why? Can anybody tell me a time when you might want the flash? Okay. But if I'm at a concert, should I have the flash on?
No.
Why? Too far away.
Burn out the foreground.
Exactly. And this camera is probably only good, or the flash is only good for about 5 feet at the most. And what happens is, if it says, I'm going to use the flash, it'll say, well, I don't need to boost the image, the light that we're seeing, because the flash is going to take over. And you see all these people at concerts, at baseball parks, and they're doing all these flashes. Their pictures are going to turn out like crap. I mean, they really are. Because it says, oh, well, I'm going to have the flash, so I'll lessen the amount of light I let in. This thing has great low light capabilities. And there's very few times when you want the flash unless you're in somewhere and it's close by, and I'd say if it's a person. So you can keep the flash off. The next thing is called HDR. Now, it may not be on auto if you have an older iPhone, but for now they're doing HDR as auto. HDR is, you photographers, yeah, high dynamic range. And what that is it takes a series of photos, usually 2 or 3 photos in HDR. And if you think about it, if I'm shooting this over here, I need a lot of light. But if I'm shooting this way towards that light back there, I need very little light, right? What HDR would do would be combine and take a picture that gives me more light, it gives me a picture that gives me less light, and combine those two pictures together via software. Okay? Now, this does it, the Apple's built-in one senses if something's moving, because the problem is if it's taken 2 or 3 photos and something moves, it's going to be in a different spot, right? Well, HDR, you don't want that in that case. HDR is for landscapes and things like, or people if they're not moving, okay? But it's a really amazing thing. So let's go back. Go ahead.
HDR is auto is just on the newer versions?
Yes, the 5S. I think you can do HDR on yours, but it's not on auto. Everybody got me on that? 5S, I think, is the only one, because the chip is really quick, and it's done a better job with it.
Is that the first 5?
I don't think on the, well, are you,
I have the first 5.
does it say HDR auto?
It says HDR off.
And then is there an
On and off.
on and off? So it's the 5S because the 5S has a faster, newer chip. It all has to do with the processing power, not the camera.
If I push HDR on,
Mm-hmm.
then it goes off after 10 seconds.
Got to be quick.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Oh, it's only went away. I tapped on again.
Oh.
So you have to select it, and it'll be in yellow when you select it. Okay? So I'm going to take, let's see, would this be a good example here? Probably. All right. So here's a good example. If you look on my screen, there's Sam and John back there, and my screen here is kind of bright. In fact, let's boost my brightness. And you'll notice my tripods or my gorilla pods over here I can hardly see. Okay? So first what I want to do is,
How did you boost your brightness?
oh, I just boost my brightness on my machine. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make this overwhelm everything a little bit. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain on that stuff. So if we look at my gorilla pods right over here, see my hand right here where my gorilla pods are. If I tap on them, you notice how it brightened everything up?
Yeah.
But if I tap over here, I tapped on the computer.
Yeah.
If I tap over here, or if I tap over here. Okay, I'm going to turn HDR off for a minute. And now, if I tap on the gorilla pods, that's funny. Okay, so there. See, I tapped on the computer. You see the little square comes up? Can you guys see that square? Okay. So that square means it's kind of like on your camera when you push the button down part way and you're saying, lock the focus, or not, show me go with the exposure and the focus of what I'm tapping on. If I tap back here, it brightens up, and if I tap over here, it's even brighter. But the problem is that may move. So if you go to a part, let's do it on the screen because it's the most explicit. I'll press and hold on my computer. Boom, boom, boom. Do you guys see it pop up? I'm going to do that again. I'm going to press and hold. Boom, boom. Now it's locked. I've locked it into that, and as I move, notice how it doesn't change my exposure. I'm going to undo it by tapping the screen one time. And now, notice how the exposure changes as I move the camera. Well, let's say I want to zoom in on that, and I go tap, tap. Look how washed out my computer is.
Where are you tapping?
I tap where I want it to focus and set exposure on, in the spot on my screen where I want to focus and exposure, okay? So again, and then once I've locked it, I tap it one time to release it. The lock lasts for only one photo, and then you have to do it again on the next photo. Okay, so again, let's think about that a second. If we look at my screen instead of your computer, right now, if I move it here, you notice how it automatically adjusts, right? I'm not touching anything. See how it adjusts? Brighter, darker. Now, let's say I'm over here, but I'm going to tap on the right-hand edge where my computer screen is, and now it zoomed in. But look, I didn't tap and hold, and see now it adjusts as I move. Now I'm going to tap and hold on my computer screen. Boom, boom. See it flash? And you'll notice at the top, what's it say? In yellow? Auto exposure, auto focus lock. And it locked because I pressed and held, and you're going to see pop, pop when it does it. So now you can see how dark everything else is, right? But if I go over here, I tapped to release it. I'm going to tap on this pod, and then now you can see that the computer is too washed out. So this situation would be you're photographing someone and there's bright, not necessarily sunlight behind them, but something else, and you want to make sure it's on them. You can tap on it and it should be okay, but if you really want to lock it in, you tap and hold. And then once it goes pop, pop, you can let go. And then to take that picture, you simply hit the button down at the bottom. So I'm going to take a picture here showing you the brightness of the computer. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to take a picture with HDR off. So boom, there it is. That's pretty dark. Now I'm going to lock it in on the Gorilla Pod here. Lock. And I'm going to take another picture. So let's look at those pictures by tapping down in the lower left there. I can look at both of those pictures I just took. There's the washed out one, and there's the one on my computer, right?
So we need HDR on to do this.
No, I have HDR off to show you this.
And then
I'm only showing you the difference. We have a photo that's pretty dark and a photo that's pretty light. Now, if I'm going to go back to my camera, I'm going to turn HDR on, and let's take this same photo. And now, well, hang on. I'm going to Let's try this. All right, here's a good example. I took HDR here, and you'll notice you see on the screen the blueness of my screen, whereas here was HDR also. It kind of was both of them. But if I go back here to my original photo, there's the computer screen. You can't make out anything on the computer screen. If we go to the last one, the HDR I did, it's a combination of both. It's the best of both worlds, okay? Now, I have a favorite app I've been using. I will try to do this. It's Pro HDR. And I'm going to take the same picture. I've got to hold it still. Oh. Correct. So when the HDR is on, the flash won't work. So I'm going to use this app called HDR Pro, so it'll show up in a second here. Okay. So now I've done this is an aftermarket program called HDR Pro, and you couldn't see it on the screen because of the way this stupid thing does, but let me show you. I'm going to go to, here was our HDR. Let me make sure there we go. So here was the HDR from Apple's built-in HDR. Pretty good job, really. But now, HDR Pro, look at how vibrant it made the colors. It takes two pictures, but spreads them out and adds more color in it. I do a lot of landscape shots with that. I'll show you a pretty dramatic one. It's the $1.99 Pro HDR. But you really got to hold it still because the photos happen a little ways apart. Come on, what's going on here on my screen? Come on. Burp, burp. Yeah.
Well, how do you activate it? You have to turn the app on and hit that app to get the camera to get the camera to get the
You use your camera just like on mine. I can tap the screen or anything else. It only does HDR. Okay, let's go back to before I go into these things, I'm going to go back to the camera app. Now, you can use HDR most of the time, and in the iPhone 5S, it's going to know if you're moving it, it'll turn HDR off. But if you look at the bottom, I'll go all the way over to the left. You may not have slow-mo available. It's only on the newer phones. But what slow motion does is it takes video at 120 frames a second instead of 30 frames a second, so when you play it back, it'll be really slow motion. We'll try this. In fact, why don't I get Sam, wave at us, Sam. Hang on, wave at us there. Oh, cool. All right, so that's, okay, good. So I'm going to go back, and let's play that. Come on. See the slow motion. Now, I think we'll get Bart here at the end. See, and she raised her head really slowly. So I took a regular video in slow motion. There we go. Sorry, Bart, you did it right as I was cutting out. All right, so now we'll go back to camera. Whenever you take video, it should always be horizontal. All video screens are built like Ken. They're wider than they are tall. Okay? So you always want to look. Inevitably, I see these. Of course, these people get these videos of these special celebrity people, and they always hold their phone like this, and there's always black bars on both sides. Do horizontal when you're doing video. Another thing, when you're done taking video, always return it to regular photo, because the next time you pick it up and you want to get a picture of this bird sitting there, you're getting a video instead of just a picture. And pictures are higher quality than video. So again, along the bottom I can slide. I have regular video. Turn it like this, and you can take it. And by the way, the flash, if it's needed in this case, becomes a constant on light if it's needed. So then we go to photo. The last one is square. The square picture is like if you want to post it to Facebook, that's kind of the default photo on Facebook. It makes it less wide than I am. This is for thinner people, I guess. And the last one is panorama, and panorama rocks. So I've gone to panorama. Now, your phone is in the upright position for panorama, not horizontal, because I'm going to be making a wide picture already. There's no need to make it any wider. By having it tall, I simply am going to start here, and I simply move it along. Boom. So now, you'll see on the screen, look at that beautiful panorama. And the amazing thing here is, I start with tough lighting, come around and get it, and go back into tough lighting, and look how well it stitched it all together. Now, if you're doing this at a crab feed and you're at your table, do not hold your arm out like this. Pivot around the camera. I've done a table of 10, and it works quite well, where I sat like this and rotated around the camera. Because if I hold my arm out, I'm changing the angle of incidence for everybody. And ask everybody to stay still for just a minute, because you get ghosted images. You get the guy that got up halfway through, and then he's kind of halfway in there. So anyway, Pano is great, and it's a high-resolution photo.
So it's not HDR, it's high resolution. You couldn't use that.
You wouldn't use HD, it doesn't know. But it may use it may tie it in there. Apple's got some tricky software going on. So if I go back here to regular photo, if I want to take a picture of myself in the upper right-hand corner, if I never do, upper right-hand corner, this flips it from the back camera to the front camera. The back camera is the best camera there is. The front camera is lower resolution. So that's my excuse anyway. So you can take photos or you can take video that way if you want, rather than turning it back on you this way.
What did you say is the better one?
The back facing, the normal facing camera, the one that's out the back, is a much higher quality camera. Okay. Also, oh here, cool. So Al sent us a panty. Did you do the built-in or?
Yeah, this is just a built-in Apple's so we're making
And I mean, if you look at that, see, you don't. What's going on? I mean, those that have ever done, look, years ago, somebody we knew climbed Half Dome, and they took a 360-degree photo. So to look at that, he had taped these photos together, and we were sitting inside and go like this. But the light changes all the time. If you look at this, you see no lines of delineation at all. It's fantastic. It's fun, and you know, when you do one like that, people go, "Wow, how'd you do it?" Well, it's an iPhone. So, the other thing is, I have a couple things here. This is called a Gorilla Pod, and I have a little mount on the top of it for my iPhone. This little device that can go on my regular tripod. Actually, when I'm out shooting with my big camera, I will attach this to my tripod because I love the HDR photos I get out of this on Pro HDR. So I'm taking the photos with my big Canon, and then I have this there, and I take photos on this. But this is also a thing that's come out so you can take movies where you would pull this along, and it does, like if you're doing a dog or something. $39 was on, it's $39 on Groupon, and it comes with the iPhone holder on it, and this articulates. So if I put this in this, and I can't do it because I have this headphone in there for the speaker, but if I take my iPhone headphones, and I've got this on a tripod, but every time I touch it, it wiggles, right? If I plug my headphone jack into it and hit the volume up button, it will snap a picture. Also, the volume up button on your phone, if you tap it, it will snap a picture. So now it looks and acts just like a real camera. You just hold it up there and do it. I still find it better to do the screen. And by the way, don't hold your camera button down on the screen because it'll do rapid shots. And you don't want that. It used to be that it was when you released it, it took a photo, but now if you hold it down, it'll do a whole bunch of shots. Okay? So that's the best camera you have with you, or the best camera is the one you have with you. So this little thing is pretty cool. You guys, you can pass this. Actually, I'll pass these two around.
It's really simple to get your videos into a keynote presentation.
Yeah, so what happens is, so good question. This isn't a photos class. Pete will be giving a wonderful iPhoto class coming up. In fact, let's talk about that since we're on photos really quickly. Empowermac.com. So this is iPhoto Weekend, iPhoto Live, coming up at Sierra View Country Club. If you've never been to an EmpowerMac class, your first class is always free. If you've been to an EmpowerMac class and you bring someone else, they get their first free class, and you get a free class. So it's like a Ponzi scheme, but it's good. So Pete was a professional photographer, so he's going to go through a lot of stuff in that. Then we're going to spend time on iPhoto. That's all day. Then the next day is about iMovie. There's a new iMovie interface. This will be the last iPhoto class that he will ever give. What? Why? Because in the fall, in the spring, January, February, we're going to have a new thing called Photos. It's kind of a combination of iPhoto and Photos. It'll be on your iOS device and everything else. So it will no longer be called iPhoto. iPhoto won't stop working. It'll continue to work. The new one's really cool. Keith?
So the iPhone has a digital zoom on it, not an optical zoom. So do these fancy things like videos and phantom shots, do they work at all when you zoom in?
Okay.
Or the resolution gets so bad it doesn't work?
It all depends on how far you zoom in. It's software. It captures such a good picture, and it's not based on megapixels. It's based on quality of picture. Apple has an 8 megabyte picture, but it hands down is better than any of the other phones pictures out there. Nokia gives it a close run, but that's about it. So you can zoom in on the screen. I'll show you that. Hang on here. I can zoom in by pinching out. Notice I get a slider on the bottom now. But that is still, that is still digital zoom. So I don't need to do that because if I take the picture, I can crop it later and have the same effect. Al, do you know any difference between doing it with this or not? It's kind of the same digital zoom. Yeah. It just lets you see better what you're zooming in on, but realistically, you're better off just taking the picture and adapting it later because you're going to digitally manipulate it later or digitally zoom it here. If you had optical zoom, you'd have this big old lens on it, and they sell lenses for it. But remember, it still has to fit in your pocket. But this is no slouch of a camera. After you take the photo, you can crop it, yes. And that's where there's some new capabilities coming up. But yes, I could take a photo. We've got a whole photos class to go through. We've got more iPhone stuff we got to get through. So any questions on the camera at this point? Just make sure your finger isn't over the lens. And the other thing is, since a lot of you put it in your pocket, just take your shirt. It's a sapphire lens cover. It won't scratch easy. Just make sure you wipe it off so that it doesn't have a piece of particulate on it. You know, you realize these go a lot of places that might have a fingerprint on it. And by the way, if you look on the back of your phone, if you have a 5 or 5S, you see a little hole between the camera and the flash. Anybody know what that is? It's a microphone, but it's a secondary microphone for ambient noise. Your real microphone is on the bottom. But what's next to it, Apple in the 5S has a yellow and blue flash, and it has 1,000 different combinations to give you a true flash. Indications are the new iPhone will have just one flash. All right, I promised maps. The third most used thing on the, we'll call you Joby. We'll call you GorillaPod, Al. So, is there anyone here that hasn't used maps? Okay, great. Don't worry, you can't hurt it. Use maps. That, to me, is the most valuable thing in the world on this phone is, I can go here to Maps. So I just tapped Maps, okay? It looks like this. Okay? It's right here.
Your telephone number. Which is better, but you got two maps there.
I'm going to show you Apple Maps. Google Maps used to be pretty good. The interface sucks now. I'm sorry. But it has some good components on it, but I'm only going to go over Apple Maps because it's the one everyone has. But you can get Google Maps for free. And it's good, but Apple Maps interfaces with everything, and I'll show you. So I'm going to click one time on Apple Maps. Now, up at the top, like everywhere else, we have a search bar, right? So if I tap the search bar and I type in, well, my home always shows up on the top. Because if I want to go home, I just tap it and it takes me to home. In the search bar up top, tap on the search bar. Okay? So if I tap home, it's going to come up on my screen and show how to get to my house. And it's going to show a couple routes, isn't it? Okay? It shows approximate time of each of those routes. And more, it's including traffic. So, but I don't want to go to my house right now. I want to find the nearest Starbucks. There's probably one around. So I start typing Starbucks, and look at this. I don't want to hit these Starbucks. I want to click. Oh, somebody bumped the John. John, watch your feet. Thank you. Going, man, earthquake. Earthquake. So right there, if I click on Starbucks, it's going to search for all the Starbucks in my map area. Now, the closest one may not be the one I want to go to. So I'm going to move my map around, and I'm going to tap on this one right here. I'm just going to tap on it, and I get this, and it says, well, it's 9 minutes away by car, and it's got 21 reviews on Yelp. So if I just hit the white area or this arrow, I just hit the white area, and now I get this information. I say, oh, there's the phone number. Oh, I tap it, and look at this. It's calling them. Hi, I need a reservation for 200. Actually, during the original iPhone presentation, Steve Jobs did that and called the Starbucks, and they said we need 300 lattes or something, and so now everybody calls that Starbucks that was in the presentation. This also shows me directions and the zip code. It's getting that zip code from the search. Yeah, they're going the opposite direction. So start at the back and just have it go forward. No, they got two different ones. Oh, okay, then that goes this way. The wheels go this way and the other one goes this way. Sorry. So if you ever need to know a zip code, if you put it in, it'll find it. But also, there's their website. And then I have other things. Directions to here, meaning this. Directions from there to somewhere else. Transit directions. It'll show you. Now, right in iOS 8, it's going to be built in. Right now, it goes off to another app. And more info. More info is great because it's Yelp, which is crowdsourced reviews on that site. And there it is. It's that Starbucks and then all the information on it. Okay, go ahead.
If you have an older phone on the application folder, a friend looked up something for me when I got there, it was no longer there, so that I used Google Maps and it showed me the new location.
On Google Maps or on Apple Maps?
It was Apple Maps that she told me, because I didn't know those maps. I'm like, oh. So when I went there, it wasn't there. So then I used Google Maps and it showed me the new location. So I'm wondering if it's an older application or what?
Well, Apple will be updating it as they update it very often. And if you have a particular thing like that, there's a thing to submit, report a problem.
Okay.
Where I go take sunrise and sunset photos out behind the old Mather, where the Mather golf course is, that's Zinfandel, and Zinfandel basically ends and becomes a Jeep trail for about a mile, and then it picks up on the other side as Eagle's Nest by Kiefer, And I'm out there taking photos all the time, and people are zinging along, and the big sign says, road end, 700 feet. And these people, and I can hear their car going, and I'm taking sunset, and oh, another one. And then they hit the dirt road, and they're bouncing all over the place. And you can tell they're saying, damn, maps. Well, I reported it as a problem, saying, look, this is a dirt road. You don't want to send people on this route. They now have corrected it, so they don't go this way. They essentially go down Douglas Road and come back around the other way. So it was people that don't normally travel it had seen that their GPS is telling them to do it that way. So different GPSs have different data sets and different upsets, but you can report the problem, and that'll help. I do have to point out that
Normally it automatically upgrades itself.
yes, and they're doing a tremendous amount of work to make this even better. It's fantastic, but it's good to have the Google Maps as a secondary one. So go ahead.
What's the difference between directions to here and transit directions?
Transit directions would be by like regional transit. Now it's not in here right now because it was an agreement that Apple ended, but they're putting that back into the app. They're going to allow other app developers to do it. But if you use Google Maps and need transit directions, the really cool thing about it is it'll show you what the bus number is, when it's supposed to be there, and even new ones now will even show you if the bus is behind. So that would be and then it shows you which part of it you have to walk, etc. And you can say, okay, I don't care about now, but what's it going to Tuesday? What is the schedule? So that's where transit directions work out really well. So I can tap on any of these, and I'll go to this one, like let's say. So now I'm going to say, well, I can tap there or go here, and I just hit, okay, I want to go from current location to there. So current location, remember I got this geofence, it knows where I am. So I'll just hit route. And it gives me a choice of 2 routes. And it's really funny, but those appear to be the same. There's got to be something different in between. But I'm just going to hit start.
Starting route to Starbucks.
It's coming through my computer for some reason, so. It said starting route to Starbucks. Okay? So, those of you that have Siri can say, oh, let me stop the, oh, and it'll redirect as you start to go. But if you stop by Home Depot on the way, go ahead and turn it off by tapping it and hit end, because as you walk down the aisle, it'll say, please take a left turn at the next light. Or you're going around here, and you just pretend like you don't. It's not you, you know. Because it senses that it thinks you're on a road or something like that. They're doing indoor mapping, but let me just tap the screen, and now I'll hit, oh, by the way, I can hit overview, and if I can hit 3D, and I can affect the 3D. It's better, I'll show you that later, and I can hit end. Now, if you have Siri, it's really simple. Don't everybody do this because you're going to affect the other person. But I'm going to press and hold the home button, and when it beeps at me, don't do it everybody yet, please. I'm going to press and hold the home button. It says, give me directions to the nearest Starbucks. Oh, here's the problem. Hang on.
Starbucks.
Hang on. Hang on. Okay. Because of this connection between these two, when I use the sound, it screws things up. So now we should be okay. So I have my phone in sleep mode. Give me directions to Sacramento International Airport.
Giving directions to Sacramento International Airport.
Now remember, this is in my pocket. I've told Siri to do this. It's coming through my car speakers, maybe. See it. It's saying it here. And I don't know why that's screwing up. But find In-N-Out Burger on my route. On my route.
This restaurant along your route named In-N-Out Burger is a little ways from you.
So I could hit directions to that. How long till I arrive?
Looking. My web search turned this up.
I gotta get back in my memo. How long till I arrive at my destination?
You should be there in about 24 minutes.
Can you do all of that on the iPad too?
Yes, but the problem is your iPad has to be connected to the internet. And if you have a Wi-Fi only iPad, the GPS will not be as accurate. So I'm going to touch up top. So then I'm back in my phone, and I'm doing a phone call comes in or whatever. Now if the phone call comes in, it will mute the navigation directions. It'll still work, show on your screen if you want it to. And it'll give you a ping when you come up to a turn you need to make, and it'll show on the screen. But otherwise, if I just tap the blue area, I can then tap the screen and hit end.
Was it the time to destination, the time to the airport, or the time to the In-N-Out burger?
No, I didn't route the In-N-Out burger, so it was time to the airport. So now, what's coming in iOS 8 is if you're somewhere and if you're somewhere and you know that you have an appointment at somebody that's in your address book coming up, it'll say you need to leave now because due to traffic, it'll take you that long to get there.
Picks up on the current traffic.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you traffic right now. So in the lower right-hand corner is the little I for information, and mine says hide traffic, which means I already have traffic on. Yours probably says show traffic. And now if I zoom in, let's try find where there's some traffic today. There's no traffic today.
I think we go to Davis, come going up to Tahoe. I mean, yesterday.
Yeah, but with this time of the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, there's a little bit. Here we go. See these little yellow dots right here?
Yeah.
That's moderate traffic. So it's either nothing, green, or red. Okay? And it's current time. So the radio stations used to have choppers, right? And you'd hear the guy flying in the traffic on the throughway and this, and it did all that. Well, they don't have those anymore because Caltrans has put those sensors in the roads all over the place and the big cameras. And they have a central place where that goes to, and everybody accesses that. All the online maps use that same access.
So one could map yourself from the Bay Area back to Sacramento and say what's the traffic like and see the time. So
it'll show you. Yeah, you can check your routes, and it does it according to traffic. If you have show traffic, leave show traffic turned on all the time, and it'll show you your routes, and it will take traffic into considerations. If traffic is a big deal to you, you can use the Google Maps for now. Apple's going to get better, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But there's a free app called Waze, W-A-Z-E. And as you're going, if there's traffic in the way of the route that you're on, sorry. So Waze takes into account the traffic and reroutes you around things. So, and it's free. It's been bought by Google. Apple is doing, what the cool thing is if you're using Apple Maps, it will anonymously check in with Apple's computer and say, well, traffic along we have 12 people on Sunrise Boulevard about there, and it's only going 12 miles an hour. And it will crowdsource that information and have that live and updated for you. And that's better than these darn traffic sensors in the thing by a long shot. So that's kind of a little bit now. It's going to be more and more. So remember, if you're using maps, you're helping everybody else out. This is at Watt Avenue in Auburn, which is really weird. After you turn right, something's up here. So you can see which side of the road it is. The little I in the lower right, tap it, and it's either going to say hide traffic or show traffic. Okay? Now, in that same screen on the I have hybrid, which doesn't mean this is for people that drive hybrid cars. This is a combination of the road names and the satellite view. Okay? Let's go see what it looks like where we are. I just hit in the lower left, I hit this, and that zooms into where we are. So now I'm double tapping the screen. Could you go outside and wave at us? These are satellite images, usually 18 months old or so. Okay? And let's go to downtown Sacramento, and I'll show you something really cool. Or what I think is cool. I mean, so here's downtown.
You just tap on your screen.
I double tap to zoom in, and two finger tap to zoom out. Two finger single tap to zoom out. Single finger double tap to zoom in. And then I use single finger to move it all around, and we're making you all sick, I'm sure. So I'm going to go back right now to standard, and I'm downtown here, right? Capitol Mall.
Oh.
So there, watch this. Now I'm going to tap 3D. And as I zoom in, look at these buildings. And I can view more on the horizon. See, I can tilt them. I can spin them around. Huh? Yeah, no. So then I'm going to hit the eye, and now I'm going to do hybrid with that. And look at these buildings. I can look at them in an oblique. Okay? So that takes a little more data. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to standard is the best because it's just graphics and this loads very quick. By the way, Google Maps, if you're going to an area where you may not have reception or you have limited data usage, you can download the map ahead of time. Or like I said, the Navigon map. The Apple map, if I do my route ahead of time, it will give me the map as I go, but it won't make course corrections or do anything like that because if you're not on data. Okay, and the data usage is very minimal. It uses what's called vector-based drawing. So, the other thing on the map is I can go here and I can message this to someone if I had directions, or if I'm somewhere, I can message it to someone and it'll show them exactly where I am, or email it to them. Or I can add a bookmark. So we have a Dave Martin in here. I could send this just right to you by hitting the the airdrop went away, but I could have sent it to you by airdrop. Yeah, don't worry about it. So, in addition to that, I want to show you on the Mac, if you're running Mavericks, you get Maps. And the Maps app will come up. And now I can say Starbucks. And the same thing. Now I'm going to go directions to here, let's say. Directions. And I'm going to get directions. And now, see this little share button up here? Send to my iPad or my iPhone. Because they're on my same cloud. I'm not messaging or anything. So I'm going to send that to my iPhone. And let's see what happens here. Come on. I'll do it again. There it is. Came up on my screen right here. And it loads that map I just did from my Mac, Apple Maps, Maverick or newer for that. Okay? All right, back to our phone. All right, so that's Maps. And again, you saw I used Siri. Siri is your interface. Why learn to use Maps when I can simply say, give me directions to the nearest Starbucks? Okay? Videos, notes. Notes is a great thing. I can go into my notes. And it's just a little notepad here, but it syncs across all my Mac devices if I have it set on, if I have it set to sync. I'm going to, basically you just do a new note, and the first line of the note will be what the title of the note is. Let's see, this is cool. Go ahead, question?
Can this be dictated?
Yes. So you'll notice I have a microphone right here. I'm going to show you how to do it with Siri in a second. I have a microphone right here. The microphone, if you have Siri available on your device, you'll have a microphone. So if I tap the microphone, If I tap the microphone, comma, I can say whatever I want, comma, and it will quote, closed quote, type, closed quote, it for me, period. Probably got too many quotes in there. Yeah, it will. So that's just using that microphone. I tap the microphone, I speak for up to 30 seconds, and it returns what I've typed. Now, that being said, I'm going to have it type two things. Oh, this is cool. It should be this is cool. So, toothpaste. Okay? So now, I'm out of my notes app, and I say, add toilet paper to my this is cool note.
Which note? This is cool, or recipes.
This is cool.
Which note shall I update? This is cool, or recipes. Okay.
I bet you in this recipe, what I do is sometimes when I see certain recipes online, I'll copy the thing and put it in my notes, and I'll bet you somewhere in there it says this is cool. So I'm going to change my note to this is really cool.
Change the shopping list.
I already have that. I have that conflict already, or I would have. And I have a Costco one and everything else. So, all right. Now I have a. This is really cool. But let's look on my Mac and on my iPad. In fact, we'll fire up the iPad. That'll be easier. So if I go to Notes on my Mac, this is really cool. It shows up on my Mac right here. And this is really cool is on my iPad.
It goes in dictated order, not in alphabetical order.
It goes in most recent to the top, which makes sense. So if I go and add anything to another note, it'll now be the top note.
Will the notes be on there at any item? Or do they have a period?
No, they're on there till you delete them. Her question was, will they stay on for ad infinitum? And I pretended like I knew what that meant. So what I mean, it'll go on till you delete them. And they're just little pieces of text. So they don't take up a lot of room. So let's watch this live. Remember, my phone is just off. Add soap to my this is really cool note.
Okay, I made the change to your note.
Come on, iPad.
Example, right?
There it is.
That's the materials list, in the notes for the material list. I go to various places, you want builders,
Yeah.
Depot.
But you could have one for Home Depot. You could have one for each of them. I have a Costco list. I have a Walmart list, and I add it to it. And then when I get there, I'll sit here. So I'm going to do it on the iPad, and I'm going to remove soap as I buy things. I'm going to remove soap and toilet paper. And now on my phone, it'll, as soon as I click off of the note, now this will update, and it's off my list. So that's in Notes, okay? But you can do it manually, but I did it with Siri. What?
Can Siri delete your items?
Difficultly, I'm not going to, it's problematic. So it'll be changing. So that's Notes. And the next is Reminders. The more I do this, the more I love it. And it's really, so we just talked about Notes. But now we're talking more about your yellow legal pad that's your to-do list. He's got a yellow legal pad right there. You've got a greenish legal pad. So you put these notes on there. Or your significant other puts notes on there on telling you what to do, your honey-do list. So that's a reminder. A reminder can just be a list of things with no certain date or time on them, right? It's be like, at some point I really got to go paint the fence. You're not going to say, The third Tuesday of April, paint the fence. You're just going to say, paint the fence. And when you paint the fence, you can scratch it off your list. So that's a reminder. So I can simply make a reminder. It says, remind me to paint the fence.
Here's a reminder. Shall I create it?
Yes.
I've added it.
Okay. But let's say I need to, I'm thinking about this, it's Saturday, and I know that on Monday I need to call the dentist to make an appointment. I'm not going to make the appointment to call the dentist. I'm going to remember to call the dentist. At 3 p.m. today, remind me to call the dentist.
Here's a reminder for today at 3 p.m. Shall I create it?
Adjust time.
I don't know what you mean by adjust time. Here's a reminder for today at 3 p.m. Shall I create it?
Edit.
Here's a reminder for today at 3.
I'm going to redo this one, sorry.
Okay then.
At 11,
Okay, I found this up.
at 11:40, remind me to call the dentist.
Here's a reminder for today at 11:40 a.m. Shall I create it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll remind you.
So that'll pop up in a few minutes. If it had been, remember to call, well, in fact, let's do this. Let's cancel that. Cancel my call the dentist reminder.
I'm not allowed to delete reminders.
So I'm going to go back into my reminders, and I'm going to say, I'm going to check it as done. So now I'm going to say, call at, oh, blah, blah, blah. At 11:40 a.m., remind me to call Al Trivet iPhone.
Here's a reminder for today at 11:40 a.m. Shall I create it? Okay, I will remind you.
At 11:40 a.m., remind me to call Al Trivet.
Here's a reminder for today at 11:40 a.m. Shall I create it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll remind you.
So, regular list, time-based list, but remember I have this geofence that goes around me all the time. So I can say, when I leave here, remind me to call mom. Or, when I get home, remember to turn on the water. And when I get to my house, or near my house, bing, 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 all my reminders for when I get home pop up. So, when I leave here, remind me to go to Sam's Hofbrau.
Here's a reminder for when you leave here. Shall I create it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll remind you.
Look what showed up on my iPad. So, that showed up. Call Al Trivet, right? Because it's 11:40 now. So if I press call, because he's in my address book, it's calling him. So I'll hit end. It will not automatically call. It will say, remember to call Al, and then say call. That was at 11:40. Go ahead.
Can you ask Siri
I can ask Siri
when
anything.
you leave here to go to send a message to?
No, what you can do is you can say, when I leave here, remind me to send so-and-so a message, and then it would pop up and then say, send that person a message. Okay? Good question. So this is why you can see the value of Siri to do these all other things, because all the things I just did with reminders, it's fruitless for me to show you how to do them because she does it so easily. So I did a note earlier. Oh, let's see. Add I'm drunk to my this is really cool note.
Okay, I made the change to your note.
Add will I need a jacket today to my this is really cool note.
You don't have any notes matching with this is really cool.
Add will I need a jacket question mark to my this is really cool note.
Okay, I updated your note.
Okay, so now if I go to the note, you'll notice it says I'm drunk and will I need a jacket to my... Okay, well, so it got some extra. So at the bottom of all of my emails, let me show you, because I use Siri a lot, and I use Siri for my email. The bottom of my email says, sorry if the message is curt, has typos, or word insertions from Siri. So now I can say whatever I want because I have absolution, right? Because I can blame it on Siri. So I told Siri, I had it type, I'm drunk, and I had it type, will I need a jacket today? So let me go to, now, that was literal speech to text, right? It records what I say, sends it out to Apple's supercomputer in North Carolina, and comes back to me as text. But we're going to add artificial intelligence to it, which is what Siri is. I'm drunk.
Just don't breathe on me.
And then it says, call me a taxi. So if I tap call me a taxi,
I found 10 cab companies.
it's usually Siri that gets jealous of it. All right. Okay, so I can also say, convert 356 US dollars to euros.
Let me check on that. 356 up 261.
€7.
Hang on here. We're not on the same network. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Okay, I'm on Fireside. Oh, come on. Well, let's see if the iPad will do it. Sorry guys, 1 sec, I gotta reboot Reflector. Reflector is this program that allows me to do this screen sharing with you guys. Or is supposed to. We are on Fireside. Cancel. All right. Settings. Fireside. Okay. AirPlay. There we go. There we go. Great. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. So Siri is built in. I can use it to launch my apps, like launch email.
To whom would you like to send this message?
Actually, sorry. The program's called Mail. Launch Mail.
To whom shall I send it?
Jeez, come on. Launch Safari. Okay, so any app I have a great, I was looking up something for my mom. Al told me it has a great app we use for photography. Launch TPE. So again, I have over 800 apps, and it searches through those and finds this, the photographer's ephemeris. I can launch any app I want by using Siri. But I want to be able, when I'm driving my car, I have hands-free in my car, so I can talk on my phone legally. My phone can be in my pocket. It can be anywhere because it's coming through my car stereo. But I'd like to be able to text message and add things to reminders and all that in my car, so I'm able to use my Bluetooth. So, send Al Trivet a text message.
Okay, what do you want to say to Al Trivet?
Just testing Siri, comma, Thanks for your help today! Exclamation mark.
Ready to send it?
Yes, send it.
Okay, I'll send it.
Now, I'd like to point out, if I'm using the iPhone headset that came with it that has a microphone in it, or my Bluetooth in my car, or any speaker system that also has a microphone, it would have read that back to me after it typed it for me, because Apple wants you to be able to be eyes free, to not have to look at your screen. And that's what's going forward, these new things called CarPlay. That's in a lot of the models coming out. You'll have certain apps that show up on the touch screen in your car, and you'll be interacting with your iPhone. It's wonderful. But again, if you use any type of headset, it will read it back to you, and the idea is it could be in your pocket. Send Al Trivet an email.
What's the subject of the email?
Just testing Siri.
Okay, what would you like the email to say?
Well, comma, I keep bugging you, comma, thanks for being the guinea pig! Exclamation mark. You'll notice I speak the punctuation.
Ken, here's your email message to Al Trivet. Are you ready to send it?
Yes, send it.
Okay, Ken, I'll send it. What's next?
That's it. Carol?
I oftentimes send a message to my daughter, Debbie. Her name is spelled D-E-B-B-Y, and when I ask Siri, it usually comes up D-E-B-B-I-E.
Do you have her last name in your contacts?
Yes.
Okay. But say the last name, or give me your iPhone a second. What's the last name?
Cashner.
Debbie Kashner is my daughter. Now just say, send my daughter a text message. Try it. I have one client, Ann Young is her name. It's a monosyllabic first and last name. Ann Young, it's just really quick. It's hard for Siri to gather enough information from that to say, okay, you mean Ann Young. So you can create a nickname for someone. Actually, here's a good example. A good friend of mine, we jokingly call each other by a nickname. Send Schnitzel a text message.
Okay, what do you want to say to Jerry Shupton?
Just testing Siri.
Ready to send it?
No, cancel.
Okay, I won't send it.
So I had created a nickname for Jerry as Schnitzel. So I said, call Schnitzel or email Schnitzel. And it says, oh, Jerry Shelton. She now can say, call my daughter. If you have multiple daughters, you can do different ones like that. But you can create a nickname for her. And if you say the first and last name, Siri knows to pull it out enough to who you're talking about. We had a question back here.
Yeah, you talk about, like on Map My Walk, for instance, you could actually have your phone in your pocket
Yes.
and it'll still work. Oh, I thought it had to be.
You can. It rings if it's in your pocket, right?
Pardon?
It rings if it's in your pocket.
Yes.
Yeah, it works well. Unless you are of the tinfoil hat crowd and you want to hide it in one of these little protective mylar things or something. But no, it works just fine. In fact, Map My Walk, for instance, good friends of mine, they've moved up to near Grants Pass, Oregon, and they have 5 acres, and he's made a little route for his wife to figure out how far it was, because she takes 2 laps a day around it. And we did, I forget which one it was. Map My Ride is one you can use on a bike, or there's a fitness one, but it says the GPS, and it actually was able to see how the route was. And yeah, and there's actually great programs for it. There's one called Rove for your car. It'll give you a log of where you've been. There's some special things coming where you're going to have some sort of wearable device that will tell you, it'll be constantly communicating with the phone and then updating that stuff. Because there's a little low power sensor in the newer iPhone 5S and most newer phones going forward that has what's called a motion chip in it. That the whole phone can be asleep and it uses very little energy, and it senses all these movements and motion things. It will also sense your respirations per minute if you need to it in the future, or your heart rate, things like that. Go ahead.
Where does the nickname that you gave to Siri reside? Is it
In contacts, and there's a spot for nicknames. Or for her, I just told Siri, say that Debbie Kashner is my daughter. And then now she says, call my daughter, and it'll call Debbie Kashner.
Is her contacts updated?
It updated it in her contacts, and it's a separate field instead of a nickname. It gives you a familiar connection then.
Yeah, what's the difference between a nickname and a relation?
The cuss words. Patience. Siri puts that in there, and I believe it puts it in a nickname because that's actually part of the template you can add to contacts. I don't know for sure, but I'd have to look into it. But I think it's a Jerry. I didn't do from Siri. Jerry or Schnitzel, I put into contacts a long time ago and just did it Schnitzel, and so it recognizes that. Cheryl?
Are you going to cover iOS 8?
I can't talk about it. Yeah, briefly. Very briefly.
When is the next iPhone coming out?
Good question. We're going to get to that right now. In fact, I'm kind of done with these things. So, Billy?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a comparable way, nicknames to get, like, there's a little island to go to all the time, please, and every time I use it, it cannot learn to spell it.
No, you can tell it if it's in your contacts. You can say you can correct pronunciation, and Google it because it's not a long process, but we need to cover some other things. But you can teach it to pronounce things like, Al, do you say trivet or trivet or trivet? So like I have a client and friend, Diane Mizell, and it says it's Mizzle. Well, I can say correct it to Mizell. And then they'll learn that. They'll learn that speaking. Okay, so we've got some questions about iOS 8. And, oh God, I hope it got saved. Oh, sweet. And the new iPhones. And we're going to talk briefly about plans. The original iPhone screen was 3.7 inches diagonal. The iPhone 5 was 4 inches diagonal. So we added an extra row, but no extra width, right? And the reason for that is because Apple is worried about how you interact with things, and the human thumb can only span so far. And I have short thumbs, and I can't one thumb my phone anyway. So what's coming is, this is the current iPhone 5 size. This is the predicted 4.7-inch iPhone. And this is the predicted, some people call them phablets, between a phone and a tablet, a 5.5-inch. So, I think I probably want the 5.5-inch, but I really don't like this look. I don't know what it is. Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, I used to have that little Bluetooth thing in my ear, and it looked pretty bad. But it was more functional than this. And not like the CHP is going to see on the phone this way. Right? Well, wait, I'm not on my phone. I'm on my iPad. Somebody else try it and let me know how that works out, okay? So this looks like what they're doing. In the US, this seems to be the prime size. Other parts of the world, everybody likes the bigger phones. So unless, I don't know why that is. But I keep my iPhone, I have a special mount. I have a Garmin mount that I love for my phone. It sits up right next to my steering wheel. I have Bluetooth, so I can do all the things I've done today on my phone by never touching my phone. The law says you can't pick up your phone and you can't, people do this.
Yeah.
And that's not bad, but that's considered holding your phone, okay? If I don't have to hold my phone, or if I simply tap the home button to activate Siri, that's okay. But they're even getting people, when you're pulled over at a stoplight, can't do this.
Yeah.
So you got to use Siri. You really do. You can't hold your phone in your hand. So I have a mount for mine. The whole eyes-free initiative and all this is to keep it in my belt and have Siri activated through, I have push a button on my dash and it activates Siri. There are the Jabra Visor phones, different things like that that'll play your music and everything else for you. So go ahead.
I just turn mine on speaker and park it on visor.
Yeah. Okay, but while you're doing that, you're illegal.
How about if you have it?
You guys, you can get them. Jabra has them. If you guys email me, I'll send you links. You clip it on your visor, and it can activate Siri, and you can voice answer your phone without even touching it, and you can stream your music through it. They're like $50. And the battery lasts for like 2 weeks, and then you just charge it up in the cigarette lighter. Okay? I mean, but the newest thing is the newer cars are coming. I have bought an aftermarket Bluetooth that ties into my radio, comes through my car speakers, and I have a little microphone up there. It was $200 and $50 for the connector cable, but I've had it for years, and trust me, it has made all the difference in the world for me. So, but Apple has this eyes-free initiative, because they're going to get to a point where phones are, we're trying to make it so they don't neuter the phones while we're driving to not be able to do anything. Because, and I'm a pretty good driver. I mean, I used to drive 40,000 miles a year, and if I just put this here, not talking on, I get tunnel vision. Talking, I can do that and not have a problem. But there's something about this action gives me tunnel vision. And I was surprised. I just kind of when it was still legal, I tested that out. And it does give you, I was supposed to take that freeway off ramp, wasn't I? So now I get more used to it, and I let Siri do the work. But I'm not afraid to stop with Siri and just say, don't do it, and I'm concentrating on traffic. Traffic's a little bit more, turn the radio down, anything. So that's the iPhones coming out. The change in the iPhone business is that we used to pay $199 for the iPhone, and you would have a 2-year contract at exorbitant levels. And over the time, you were paying over $1,000 for that phone because you had a 2-year commitment and your plans were really high. The trend now is to pay for the phone either on an installment plan or pay for it outright and get a plan for less money. You guys could all get on a plan I know of with Virgin Mobile. There's Consumer Cellular. There's a bunch of them where you can get pretty much unlimited, limited minutes talking, but we're all talking less on our phones because we're texting more. Unlimited text and a moderate amount of data for $30 a month. There's also some other companies out there that are doing some other amazing plans, but it all revolves around you owning the phone beforehand. So the iPhone 5C right now, the plastic one, is list price $550, I think, and the iPhone 5S is $650. The new phones will probably be more money because the screens cost a lot. But if you're on a plan, don't automatically do the update. To me, the best and most favorite carrier going right now, if I wasn't on my AT&T Unlimited, I would go to it in a heartbeat, is T-Mobile. Now, I'm all about deals, and these are all going to change. And in the fall, when we do a presentation at the meeting, we're going to have the new plans because we're going to tell you guys all about what's going on with the new phone and everything. It'll probably be in September. Speaking of which, the new phone, the indication is they're going to announce the phone on September 19th or so, and 10 days later on the 25th, it'll be available in the store to long lines. That's the indication. Usually a week before that, they make iOS 8, which is the new operating system, open to all of us. And it will cover iPhone 4S's and newer, iPad 2 and newer, and iPad minis. Okay? And I may include the iPhone 4 if I'm not mistaken. But I know the 4S. And that'll be a free update. Somewhere around then, we'll also get macOS 10, 10.10, Yosemite, 150th year anniversary of Yosemite was just last week. And that was that'll be available for free also. And if your computer can support Mavericks, indication is it will support Yosemite. And there's going to be this incredible interaction. Believe it or not, with the new iOS 8, if I get a phone call coming into my phone, as long as I've got these in the same area, it'll show up on my screen and show, you've got an incoming call from so-and-so, do you want to accept it here? And I accept it here, and then I'm using the speaker and microphone from my computer to talk with them, and my phone is over on the dresser. There's some interaction like that. You start typing an email on your phone, you get home, and you can finish it there. So there's some remarkable things. T-Mobile, though, if you're not sure, and you're not sure if you want to like them, sign up online, and they'll ship you an iPhone 5S and let you try it out for a week at no charge. They're calling themselves the Un-carrier. Verizon's very expensive. AT&T is expensive. AT&T and Verizon have finally started feeling the pressure, and they're dropping their prices a little bit. So check your plans. But T-Mobile will send you a phone. They will put a $650 hold on your credit card for that week. They'll ship you the phone for free. You're free to use it. It's a 5S. You're free to use it for a week, and then take it to any T-Mobile store, and once it's turned in and credited, you won't be charged. Now, T-Mobile, if you want to buy a phone from T-Mobile, you have to buy it, but they will finance it over a period for you at no interest rate, so you're essentially paying full price for the phone, but you're getting a less expensive plan. But the big thing is their plan is unlimited if you get their higher end plan. And you can tether an iPad to it. So these things are all changing, but that's a 5S. If you think you need a little bigger phone, I wouldn't rush out and get a 5S, because the 5S is getting close to a year old. You know, it's almost obsolete. So the 5S is wonderful. But going forward, you know, if you need a bigger phone, for me, since I have mine in my car, I do need a little bigger phone for that. Billy had a question first, and then right here.
Does T-Mobile has good signal as well?
It's getting better. Verizon has the best coverage, but everybody's starting to catch up. So here's the deal. T-Mobile is really making a big push, and they're rolling out more and more LTE. Sprint, which had pretty sucky coverage, got bought by a very large Japanese company, and they're putting lots of money into it. And Sprint is trying to buy T-Mobile. And I think that would be the best of both worlds. A lot of money with a pretty progressive company. So I think that's going there. But consumer cellular, AARP, straight talk wireless, there's so many options now. But remember, you might have to pay more for the phone, but over your length of your, whatever it is, 2 years, you're going to end up paying less that way. I would prefer to buy my phone outright because I own my phone. And if I decide I have to go overseas, I can put a SIM card in it. If I'm over in France for 3 weeks, I can put their SIM card in it and use it wherever I want, rather than saying, well, you know, you're locked into your plan. T-Mobile will buy you out of your current contract. Somebody thought it was exciting. Go ahead.
I have the same question.
Okay. Anybody else have that same question? Oh, good. Okay, no, go ahead.
Not the same question, but you keep giving reference to the 5S. Now, I have the 5C.
Okay, not a huge difference. It's a great phone. The 5S has a faster chip, and it has the fingerprint reader. Everything introduced this fall will probably have a fingerprint reader on it. Okay, I want to show you 2 photos here. We talked about HDR earlier. So, this photo is taken with my regular Canon camera, and you'll notice the grassland here. In fact, on my screen I can see it a little bit, but you really can't see much of it here because I'm shooting a sunset, right? This is out behind Aerojet, Douglas, Grant Line and Douglas Road out there. Okay, so you can see the grassland isn't very good. This is normal photo. I use the Pro HDR app, and look at what I get. Big difference. It gives me this and that. And that was with my iPhone. And this was with a $1,500 camera. So the iPhone's looking a little bit good these days. And I didn't really touch this up, and I think I cropped this, but that's about it. All right, any other questions? Go ahead.
Are you going to have another music
I've never had one.
Well, through the MacNexus, is there one in the
Yeah, so the question was, will we have another music class? I think so. Pete's the one that does that. He knows it inside and out. I'm a talk radio kind of guy because I listen to podcasts. I get this information because I listen to tech podcasts all the time, and surprisingly enough, I do it on my iPhone, which is with me all the time. I have to show you this. Podcasts are the best. So if I listen, the best podcaster in the world, I think, is Clark Howard. He's a great consumer guy. He's the nicest guy you'll ever talk to. I don't have any of his episodes on here, but if I go to, here I'll go to MacBreak Weekly. We've had Andy Anako on here before. Oh, hang on.
I are all going to talk about all things Apple, including favorite aperture.
Oh, come on. Go back to my microphone. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to play this. This is at normal speed. I'm impatient. I played at 1.5 speed. For instance, radio shows like Armstrong and Getty is 4 hours. Each hour is about 37 minutes. So I cut out the commercials. Those 37 minutes, I can cut another 10 minutes or 15 minutes off of that. So I can listen to 4 hours of Armstrong and Getty radio in like 1 hour and 10 minutes if I want to. But it's always with me. The podcast has the commercials out of it usually. There's usually a short little commercial in the beginning. Go ahead.
How good is the battery on that? I have to say I have an older one, but
So the battery that's usually when it's time to upgrade the phone. Apple will replace your batteries for you. But they make aftermarket, and this goes back to the lightning cable thing, they make aftermarket battery chargers and backs that you can put on your phone. Mophie, M-O-P-H-I-E, is the best, and it uses the lightning connector. And it gets you add up 2 to 3 times your life on it. Do you have an old 30 pin? Do you have an old 30 pin connector on there?
I have.
Which phone is it?
I haven't touched the file.
Oh, okay.
The touch is probably one of the anyway.
Thank you very much.